Okay, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everybody. Today is Monday, November the 15th, 2021, and we have quite a bit to cover for you folks today. So some of you folks may have noticed that I tend to do the Kraken episodes on Mondays a little bit later in the day. That's simply because I want to sort of let all the news over the previous weekend, and of course, the daytime news hours during the day, the night, the afternoon, whichever time zone you're in on a Monday, to sort of accumulate, and then we kind of do one big sort of wrap up of reporting, if you will. So anyways, first off, tens of thousands protested in Melbourne, Australia today, 2 days ago, against new pandemic law that would give the executive indefinite emergency powers to, quote, protect public health, end quote. I don't think I need to even express what that leads to. Again, we can use many different examples over the course of history. I mean, one of the more extreme ones, of course, would be the Nazis, if you will, and a lot of people might, shit on me or give people shit for comparing such instances or such, quote-unquote lockdowns or quote-unquote divisive measures to the Nazis. But you know what? I gotta say, I was not around at that time. It would not be fair for me to simply just make a solidified assessment or, I guess you could say, assert that, this is equivalent to that of the Nazis. But again, the language seems to be there. I mean, based on what I've studied of World War II and based on what I've looked at, you look at what's going on with the terms used in Australia, not just in Australia, but in other parts of the world too, we can very strongly assert that, again, this may in fact be quite dangerous, and I would dare to argue it is, but it's not for me to say. So again, I'm just going to leave that there. The next thing is that Germany has put 12,000 soldiers on standby to, quote, support hospitals, health departments, and nursing homes, end quote, according to Spiegel, which is an outlet based in Germany. Again, if presuming this is legitimate and the people need it, I have personally, in my humble opinion, again, I'm not German, so technically speaking, I should not even be speculating. But with that being said, I know you folks like my opinion, so I gotta say, presuming this is legitimate and there's no farce or malarkey going on with the justification of why such troops were deployed, so be it. As long as the people are okay with it. The next thing is that Bloomberg Opinion claims, quote, Americans cannot spend like they used to. Store shelves are emptying, and it can take months to find a car, refrigerator, or sofa. If this continues, we may need to, gasp, live more like the Europeans, end quote. What I see here, folks, big picture-wise, forget the economics of it. I see the elites, the top 1%, grasping onto as much wealth as they can out of pure greed, and then basically telling the rest of us, well, too bad, you got to lower your living conditions. And I'm not trying to disrespect Europeans. And not at all. I know it depends which country in Europe. Some people in Europe live very, very well, even if they're not making that much money. So again, I'm not trying to correlate this directly to Europe or Europeans overall. I think that's a bit too much of a sort of black and white drop in the bucket metaphor, if you will, which is why I won't agree with it. But that's what I gather when I see things like this. Even if they said, you got to start living more like Australians, you got to start living more like Russians, regardless of if it was, if you replace that word European, start living more like Europeans with any other nation or continent, I still would say what I see from this are the elites getting greedier and greedier and telling the rest of us, well, too bad, essentially, right? The next thing is that the logjam of container ships outside the California ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach have swelled to another record, with an average wait for vessels reaching 17 days. Again, I can't help but think this is deliberate. This is just my opinion. I do not mean to start proposals or conspiracies where there may not be any. But again, we see YouTube covering up for the dislikes on the White House live streams. We see YouTube covering for, again, so many different things for the Biden administration. And we see that the questions are being dodged pertaining to the shipping container situation. So it's clearly a goddamn issue. But, had this been, and if we're being consistent here, not that I'm a Trump fan, but had this been the Trump administration, my lord, the amount of things that the media would have went on to him for. Not just this, but like when Biden said Negro, or when, Trump, if Trump had said that, holy cow. Just being consistent, right? The next thing is that a Polish soldier was shot and killed serving on the border with Belarus. The incident was an accident, according to the military. This was reported, I believe, a day and a half ago. There has not been a follow-up pertaining to this incident, so maybe it was squashed very quietly. It was genuinely an accident, but maybe it was not, and now there's going to be some retaliatory moves made from the opposite side of things, and that the opposing party will justify it as, well, boop, it was a quote-unquote accident. Could be that, or it could have legitimately been an accident, but we have to speculate in some cases like this, folks, because we can't trust the government or our own mainstream media, which is why I would imagine a lot of you are coming to listen to this, right? So the next thing is that the Pope has thanked journalists yesterday for exposing sexual abuse scandals that the Roman Catholic Church initially tried to cover up, according to Reuters. again, I'm not going to speculate too much or extrapolate into this. He knows what's going on. He knows the things that they're all hypocritical, whether the Pope has good intentions or not. Again, just trying to play it down the middle, unbiased. If he has good intentions, he's still going to be a hypocrite. If he doesn't have good intentions, even more of a hypocrite. It doesn't really matter. And I'm not trying to defend him whatsoever. I'm just saying that when you work your way up into a position of power within such hierarchies, such as the Vatican in this particular case, you don't get there without realizing the hypocrisy and corruption within it on the way up, at least in my opinion. So, the next thing is that hackers have compromised the FBI external email system yesterday, sending out fake emails about fake cyber attacks. The messages were sent by abusing insecure code in an FBI online portal designed to share information with state and local law enforcement authorities. Yeah. I'm not trying to say like I told you so, because it's easy for me to just sit back here in front of my microphone and rant and shit on the FBI and all these other agencies, if you will, but I can't help but think possible inside job, potential false flag, and if it is legitimate, then my God, why haven't they protected their code in a much more stronger way? Those would be my three sort of go-to responses in my own mind, at least. The next thing is that Austria has authorized the world's first nationwide lockdown for unvaccinated people over the age of 12, which goes into effect at midnight tonight. My God, it can't even be freaking over the age of 18 or 19. Jesus. The new restrictions will be enforced on an unprecedented scale, according to the Interior Minister, with fines up to 30,000 euros. Fines of up to 30,000 euros, excuse me. Jesus Christ. Pardon me for those that don't like saying those words, but my God, what the hell? Like, geez, holy cow. As an update, Austria is considering a nighttime curfew that would also apply to the vaccinated population, according to the health minister. So they forget the unvax, even the vaccinated. What the hell? My worry is this. All it takes is one European country to do it. The rest are going to follow. That's where I stand right now. So I don't even want to go in. I can just keep ranting about how I think this is terrible. But anyways, we got to move on. The next thing is that U.S., Poland, and their allies are united in imposing significant costs on Russia for its, quote, military aggression and malign activities, end quote, in the region, according to the United States State Department. Yeah, of course they are. Yeah, so let's see what happens. It's a chess game. The only people that will suffer are the people of Ukraine, the people of Crimea. These are the people that are going to suffer, very sadly, but truthfully. The next thing is that large groups of illegal migrants have gathered at the Poland-Belarus border crossing. It's getting very, very substantial, much more substantial than previously in terms of the amount of people there, the quantity, the numbers, and all that. The next thing is that the UK national terror threat level has been raised to severe after Boris Johnson chaired an emergency Cobra meeting. Yes, this has to do with the recent, very unfortunate Liverpool bomber who was a 32-year-old by the name of Imad al-Swilmin. Hopefully I pronounced his name correctly, but he was named by this was confirmed by the counterterrorism police of the Northwest. So, again, if you see the footage of how it happened, my lord, and this is one of the things too. You whether it's New York City, Toronto, whether it's London, Tokyo, it doesn't matter. You're afraid to go walking nowadays. You're afraid to go for a walk in a park because you're afraid someone's gonna come and blow themselves up. I mean, whether it's with radical Islamic terrorism or whether it's with radical terrorism of other ethnicities, cultures, religions, the tension is everywhere. Forget just a political objective or a religious objective or narrative. The tension is everywhere. People are shooting each other because of arguing over a face mask at a gas station. I'm not trying to put this all in one big bucket. I understand we got to classify terrorism separate to that of what's going on with COVID. I understand that. But, I mean, you folks see what I'm saying here, right? Like, the tension is just rising all over the place. The next thing is that the judge has dismissed a gun charge. It dismisses the gun charge, rather, in the Kyle Rittenhouse trial as it is lawful to possess a long-barreled rifle at the age of 17 in Wisconsin. Again, whether people disagree with this or not, I know the mainstream media is shitting on the Kyle Rittenhouse judge. I'm not giving my opinion yet because I want to sit back and see what's really going on after everything kind of dials over, blows over, so to speak. I know the mainstream media has been jabbing very strongly at this judge because it's not in favor of what the mainstream media, at least on the left, seems to want. So again, but to be fair though, I don't see anything wrong from a legal perspective. I'm not a lawyer, but if it's legal for a 17-year-old in Wisconsin to possess a long-barreled rifle, again, this comes down to the gun control rules. You got to change that. This has nothing to do with Rittenhouse in this particular subcontext of this case, to be fair. The next thing is that the U.S. Space Command has monitored a debris-generating event in outer space following reports of a Russian anti-satellite test, or ASAT, A-S-A-T. The ISS crew are forced to perform, quote, safe haven maneuvers, end quote. Okay, as long as everyone's okay. I don't know what else. I mean, I really don't know what else there could be done here, presuming all protocols are put in place. And, this is again, an anti-satellite. Sure. I mean, I'm don't get me wrong, I'm thinking of other things deeper than that, but that could be the cover story. So the next thing is that YouTube is was suspending multiple live streams of the Kyle Rittenhouse trial during closing arguments, citing, quote, policy violations. But then shortly after, the channels that report that the live streams are working again, the ones whose streams were taken down, but some of them complain of having lost viewers due to the interruption by YouTube. Again, censorship, blatant censorship. One of the reasons why I think YouTube has not messed with us is because we've sort of stuck to the more extraterrestrial narrative of things, or the more extraterrestrially oriented topics of things. But I also think, to be quite honest with you folks, I think we're just, we haven't been put on YouTube's radar yet. I believe the shadow banning and all that is traditional or relative to that of an algorithm. I don't think we've had one person on us yet. I know we've had some streams taken down, but I could be very wrong. That's sort of the optimistic angle of me. The next thing is that the prosecutor in the Rittenhouse trial claims at the end, quote, you lose the right to self-defense when you're the one who brought the gun, end quote. The reason I saw this, folks, the reason why I wanted to report this when I read this and saw this is, let me repeat that for you. The prosecutor in the Kyle Rittenhouse trial claims, quote, you lose the right to self-defense when you're the one who brought the gun, end quote. I'm Canadian. Last time I checked, this case is going on in America. Is anyone here familiar with the Second Amendment, particularly the prosecutor who just said that? Are you kidding me? What? Are you serious? That was his closing statement. That was what the prosecutor claimed officially in the courts. Really? In Canada, he would be right, but not there. What the hell? So, I don't know. Anyways, the next thing is that France is ready to defend Ukraine's, quote, territorial integrity, end quote, warns President Macron, according to the Associated Press. Yeah, look, it's a chess game. Again, the only people that will suffer are the innocent ones. I keep repeating that. Maybe I'm wrong. Please tell me if I am. I genuinely mean that. But this is what I see. The next thing is that an Iranian helicopter approached a U.S. warship in the Gulf of Oman as close as 25 yards, or 23 meters, according to the Pentagon. Again, tit for tat, it's a chess game. In this case, there may not be innocent people that die in this instance, but this event may lead to a larger one, which will kill innocent people on land. That's my train of thought, so to speak. The next thing is that the French presidency has reverted the blue of the country's tricolor flag back to the pre-1976 navy tone in a nod to the revolution. I do not live in France. One of my grandfathers had a French citizenship. He was born in France. Honestly, I haven't kept up strongly enough, or I haven't kept up well enough to be able to make a personal opinion on that. I know a handful of you are from France. A shout out to you folks that listen or watch this show, so maybe you could give a much more strongly formulated opinion on this flag, if this is a big issue amongst the people there or not. If I'm not there, I don't want to comment on it. The next thing is that the UN calls for new talks on Yemen's Hodeidah as front lines shift. Houthi fighters advanced into key positions in the strategic port city after pro-government forces withdrew. Again, it's a chess game. It's a chess game. They want us to say, oh, look at this, look at that. It's a distraction from the larger things going on around the world, in my opinion. The next thing is that U.S. journalist Danny Fenster is on his way home after the Myanmar release. Fenster says he will continue to highlight the plight of detained colleagues in the country, most of whom are Myanmar citizens. This is the thing. I don't agree with what they're doing in Myanmar, but to be fair, it's that sort of globalistic versus nationalistic perspective. Stay out of our business or what? You see what I'm saying here, folks? The next thing is that Iran and Turkey hope to sign a cooperation roadmap in Erdogan visit. After meeting his Turkish counterpart, Iran's foreign minister says the roadmap will aim to boost bilateral ties. Come on, we know what's going on. Iran, Turkey, there's a lot more there than is on the surface, obviously, with respects to covert operations, intelligence, you name it, at least in my humble opinion. The next thing is that Iraqi Kurds are fleeing to Belarus, some of them saying, quote, "No way I'm going back to Iraq," end quote. As the asylum seeker crisis continues to brew between Belarus and the European Union, Iraqi Kurds tell tales of agony and helplessness. You know what? Can I be honest with you, folks? I'm going to put that, assuming I'm not missing context here, I'm putting that right on Bush and Cheney. I'm literally putting that right on them. Again, the only people that suffer are the innocent ones. Over and over and over again. But meanwhile, they want people in Europe or in the West to focus on the news, the headlines. Oh, let's look at this. Let's see what the analysts on CNN are saying. No, people are dying. Shut it down. You know what I'm saying? I know it's not that simple, but you get where I'm coming from, hopefully. The next thing is that Iraq plans to repatriate citizens stranded at the Poland-Belarus border. Flights plan to begin on Thursday to repatriate citizens on a voluntary basis, the government says. Okay. Again, they got to deal with this one way or another, presuming this is legitimate and it's done in a peaceful, healthy way, in a non-hostile way. So be it. I mean, unless I'm missing context. The next thing is that AU troops, African Union troops, have been sentenced to death for civilian killings in Somalia. 2 soldiers have been sentenced to death and 3 others given a 39-year prison term each for killing 7 civilians. Again, I don't know the context of this particular case, but presuming there was no corruption involved in the trial and conviction, this is the way things go. You can't just blatantly kill innocent people, right? Now, again, to be fair, I don't know the context. Did they seem to be, potential enemies? I mean, it's very difficult to say in those kind of situations. The next thing is that the S-400 delivery to India has begun, according to Russian officials. Indian experts say that U.S. sanctions on India are unlikely as delivery of the advanced missile system begins, the Russian media reports. I believe that. I don't see Biden slapping sanctions on India. I think he needs India right now. He needs Modi in a lot of regards, in a lot of different ways. So I could be wrong, but I just don't see that happening. For once, I never thought I'd say this. I'm inclined to maybe agree with the analysts, but, this is just me talking out of my ass. So the next thing is that son of ex-Panama president has been extradited to the U.S. from Guatemala. The extradition is the latest tied to $788 million U.S. dollars in bribes. In bribes that the Latin American construction giant Odebrecht admitted to paying. They got caught. They admitted to it. They're going to get extradited. Simple. Presuming this is everything in context, right? The next thing is that the U.S. has slapped sanctions on Nicaragua officials citing a sham election. The U.S. Treasury action sanctioned 9 Nicaraguan officials and a public ministry over the November 7th election that saw President Daniel Ortega re-elected to a 4th term. This is, I mean, look at the things that the West has done to Nicaragua. Again, whether that was a sham election or not, a little hypocritical for the U.S. to be saying, or for the West to be doing that, don't you think? But again, the arguments could be made both ways, to be fair. The next thing is that Argentina has plans to vote in its midterms amid pressure on President Fernandez. Nearly half of the lower house chamber of deputies seats are up for grabs, as well as a third of the Senate. Okay, let's see what happens. Let's see what comes of this. Allegedly, as of how it's going so far right now, don't quote me on this, but I believe I read this correctly. I remember this correctly, rather. President Fernandez's party may, in fact, lose the controlling power they've had for about 30 to 40 years, if I'm not mistaken. But, I mean, this is pure speculation at the moment, at least as of the time I'm recording this. The next thing is that NATO warns Russia over Ukraine military buildup. Jens Stoltenberg has urged Russia to be transparent as NATO monitors, quote, unusual, end quote, concentration of forces close to Ukrainian border. Again, it's strategy. The only people that are going to suffer are the innocent ones. I hate to sound like a broken record to you folks, but I don't know how else to put this. Yeah, let's see what happens, really. Let's see if Putin's really got... I mean, at least in my opinion, I was going to say, let's see if he's got the balls to do it. I know he's got the balls. It's not about that. It's about strategy, I would imagine. But, some people have also noticed that Putin, in some cases, makes a lot of moves that seem strategic at first, but in the grand scheme of things are not. Hard to say. Very hard to say. The next thing is that Royal Dutch Shell, the Shell oil gas company, has announced a plan to move its headquarters to the UK as part of proposals to simplify the company's structure. The oil giant will ask shareholders to vote on shifting its tax residence from the Netherlands to the UK. Again, according to BBC Business, it's all about tax stuff. I mean, they've also been ordered by courts in the Netherlands, if I'm not mistaken, to ramp up their net zero emissions goal or something like this pertaining to helping with the climate. So, time for the executives to move countries and the company locate headquarters to move countries for, tax reasons. Don't want to, play our part in the environment, yada, yada. Again, I'm not a tree hugger, but I think it's always great to help the environment. So with that being said, folks, that's it for today. We'll catch all of you tomorrow. And of course, for the members, we got lots coming. We have an almost 40-minute special members episode coming, in addition to lots of things on the public end and more stuff for the members too. So with that being said, thank you so very much, folks, and we'll catch you all later on. Cheers.